Let me show you how to be a good Bayesian.
Welcome to another live episode of Learning Bayesian Statistics, recorded at PyData New York 2024. This time, I talked to Will Dean, a statistician and data scientist with a passion for Bayesian methods, geospatial analytics, and data visualization. In this episode, we explore key applications like media mix modeling, which helps optimize marketing spend, and customer lifetime value models, which are crucial for understanding long-term customer behavior. Will also shares his insights on productionizing these models to make them actionable in real-world business scenarios. A huge thank you to the organizers of PyData New York for their trust, dedication, and hard work. It was an absolute blast. This is Learning Bayesian Statistics, episode 126, recorded live on November 7, 2024.
Let me show you how to be a good Bayesian. Change your predictions after taking information in. And if you're thinking I'll be less than amazing, let's adjust those expectations. What's a Bayesian? It's someone who cares about evidence.
Welcome to Learning Bayesian Statistics, a podcast about Bayesian inference, the methods, the projects, and the people who make it possible. I'm your host, Alex Andorra. You can follow me on Twitter at Alex_Andorra, like the country. For any info about the show, learnbayesstats.com is the place to be. Show notes, becoming a corporate sponsor, unlocking Bayesian merch, supporting the show on Patreon, everything is in there. That's learnbayesstats.com. If you're interested in one-on-one mentorship, online courses, or statistical consulting, feel free to reach out and book a call at topmate.io/Alex_Andorra. See you around, folks, and best Bayesian wishes to you all. And if today's discussion sparked ideas for your business, well, our team at PyMC Labs can help bring them to life. Check us out at pymc-labs.com.
Hello, my dear Bayesians! First, I want to thank the fantastic David McCormick, Ronald Leggere, Sergio Dolia, and Michael Cow, who started to support the show on Patreon. Thank you so much for your support, guys. I think you know, but it really makes a difference. It really makes this show possible. Again, that's with your contributions that I pay for everything going on here backstage, the editing, the communication, the guest scheduling, preparation of the episodes, and of course recording the episodes. So thank you so much to you all, and as usual, I will see you around in our brand new Discord server. Second thing before we start the show, I wanted to let you know that I will be at a fun new conference on March 18, 2025. That's called Field of Play. It's going to be in Manchester, UK, and we're going to talk about sports analytics. So if you're into that, please join us. I am not going to give a talk this time, but much better, our dear Chris Fonsbeck, PyMC's BDFL, that you heard of very recently in the podcast. Well, Chris will be talking about Bayes in baseball, of course. And there are speakers from top Premier League football clubs, from Olympic winning teams, from academia. It's going to be fun, so feel free to get your tickets at fieldofplay.co.uk. The link is in the show notes. Okay, on to the show now.
Will Dean, welcome to Learning Bayesian Statistics.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Big fan.
Yeah, well,
Been over the years, and
really? You did?
of course.
So full disclosure for the listener, I just asked to the whole room who was listening. You didn't raise your hand.
I did, but you were looking the other way.
Okay. So do you confirm, Sam? Okay. Okay, that's fine. No, seriously, thanks a lot for being here. That's cool because I get to know you because we worked at Labs for just a few months together, but I didn't really get to know you, so that's great that you're here. Today we'll talk about what you do best, so that's a lot of marketing analytics, customer lifetime value, that kind of things, which you're way better than me at. So that's great. I'm going to learn a lot. But before that, like, can you tell us your origin story, right? Like how, maybe first what you're doing nowadays and how you ended up working on that.
Yeah, most of my work now, I'm doing consulting with PyMC Labs, and my main project I'm working on is PyMC Marketing. It's an open source package.
Yeah.
A lot of the functionality there is stuff that we leverage for consulting. Yeah, I work on that a lot. There's a few different sides of it. There's MMM, media mix modeling, the customer lifetime value stuff, as well as some new modules that we're coming out with. Customer choice stuff is something we're currently working on, PRs. One of the things that I've been excited on is trying to get these PyMC models into production. So we've had recent integration with MLflow, and we're still working through stuff like that. But my background, statistics, PyMC has been on my radar for years now. I was doing stuff back in PyMC 3 when that was the term. I think it was a little bit of a hard adjustment to drop the 3, but it makes sense now. Yeah, I always found it really fascinating. At the time, I was still kind of picking up my coding skills, and I found the open source community and welcomeness of PyMC really, really great. I picked up some issues and was always at least reading through the docs of the examples that PyMC has. They're terrific, and really just caught my curiosity. I really didn't have an introduction to Bayesian statistics until college, and didn't really grab my attention too much at the time, but did use hierarchical models a lot for some applications. And I think it was when I got into industry where the Bayesian stuff really caught my eye. The use of posterior predictive, evaluating it through different functions in order to get back to the language of the business you're working with was something that I use and help resonate the problems that I was solving. And I just found it really powerful. And it's, I think the interface that PyMC offers is really great. And I favorite over some of the other ones. But yeah, it's gotten me to where I am now. And now I'm a bit more active in the community. PyMC Marketing has been my project. That's something that I'm working on with a few of the other developers. And we always have new contributors, which is really great. I always try to promote that and try to give people shout outs and help where I can, so that their work shines as well. Yeah. But yeah, having a lot of fun with it. So that's what keeps me here.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. And I mean, thank you for all the work you're doing on the open sourcing, the PRs, the like onboarding of people. That's absolutely amazing. And actually, did you learn Bayesian stats while you were, ramping up on contributing to PyMC and PyMC Marketing, or were you already familiar with that kind of statistics before, and like PyMC was just a way for you to apply that theory?
So I did some courses in college. I remember doing all the derivations of conjugate priors. One of my Python packages on GitHub is called conjugate models. Okay. And it implements many of those in an API that I found satisfying. It's been something that I worked towards over my career. Found an interface that I enjoy. To me, I had that sense of what it was, but then it really, PyMC for me was very magical that you could just define this random generation process and then magically you can get parameter estimates. You have to get rid of your pen and paper, and you didn't have to do derivations. And I thought it was really cool. And the fact that you can drop some assumptions and be really catered to what you're doing is really powerful. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah. Like that, I had the same experience where I also did, pen and paper stats, which ironically I hated. I was much more into algebra at that time because like algebra makes much more sense with a pen and paper, whereas probabilities with pen and paper, you just
you can just mainly do trivial problems with dice and coins, which I don't care about. But yeah, then when I saw that you could generate distributions and have beautiful plots on the computer, that was like, damn, that's really cool, you know. So definitely resonate with that.
Yeah. At one point I was doing probably most of my work on pen and paper. This is probably just during college, but since then, the fact that you can have a feedback loop of visualize what your problem you're working on is something that I reach for now.
Yeah. So let's dive a bit into PyMC Marketing, because that's one of your main line of work these days. Can you introduce PyMC Marketing to the audience, and give us an idea of what you can do with that and why that would even be interesting to people?
Yeah, it falls into general sense of the customer analytics. There's the customer lifetime value problems. It's a module that's in the package that has kind of I lump them into the questions of how much is someone doing something, how much are they spending, how often are they doing it. A lot of these W and words and these higher level questions, and that's uses a lot of the state of the art models. Cole Allen is really leading that, and is trying to get basically any functionality that's there into the module. I've been doing a lot of work on the marketing mix modeling, which is kind of a higher level time series decomposition of seeing where is your media spend or some type of marketing spend kind of best being allocated. And then there's a lot of questions that happen on top of that. Once you have this decomposition, you can ask, what should I do? And what are some other scenarios? And because of the way the model is structured, you can get a good insight into the internals. And one of the aspects that I've been trying to build out is that you do have easy access to these internals. Trying to see when does your money stop giving you returns. The problem there is that many marketers have many different assumptions, so there's a lot of different ways to cater it and make the problem flexible, but also useful for many people. We're doing some customer choice models now. It's a new module that we're working towards. The main question there would be, if you're running a new product, what would be where the existing products, how would it result in their sales or something like that? So it's coming from the same type of pool, but how does it get broken down? And then
so more like counterfactual analysis and what if scenarios, basically.
Correct. Yeah, Ben Vince is doing a lot of work there, and I'm trying to help him get it across the finish line. Because it seems like some useful stuff. But then you do have this sense of you can have that close tie with causal type of claims then. So
that's really cool. I mean, already a lot of stuff here, but so we have a diverse audience here, and also like even more diverse the people who listen afterwards. So maybe can you tell them, if they don't care or don't do customer analytics or marketing analytics, why is it still interesting to be hearing from you about these kind of models? Like how transferable these skills basically are to other domains?
I mean, I think you always have people using a product, so you can always have these. I lump them into these questions of, how often, how much, how, anything like that. So I think you'd have a sense of trying to understand your customer base, and if you don't have that pulse, then I don't really understand that point of view. But, I think that everyone's working with stuff. on that level. So these are statistical models. So they offer kind of insights that are white box models, and they can kind of just give glimpses into their tools into understanding that type of base.
Yeah.
And then also, I think any type of marketing spend is something that people are trying to better allocate. So if you're spending money, hopefully get some recognition on where exactly its impact is going.
Yeah, it's so great points. And I think also it's all of time series predictions, right? So and time series are everywhere, especially in sports analytics, as you know. But yeah, everywhere. And so I think that's also very interesting to be exposed to these models, because they teach you a bit how to think about the time series with some counterfactuals. The good thing of marketing data from the work I've done at labs for MMMs, things like that, is you get to have more controlled data and some even controlled experiments, which you don't have in a lot of fields. So that's pretty cool, because that allows you to do many more things and very powerful methods. So I think that's also a very, very good pedagogical use of these tools. And I think, so talking about that, the MMMs are that's the flagship, right, of PyMC Marketing and even of the models in these industries. So can you define what a media mix model is, when it's useful, and how what are the building blocks of such a model?
Yeah, it comes down. It's a regression model. It's a time series. So you have this target variable, usually sales or installs, something along those lines, and then some of the covariates of that design matrix are going to be things like spend, but also something about any type of control you might have, and then just the way that the models are built, you want to also try to account the fact that money doesn't continuously give you infinite returns. So there's saturation, non-linearities, as well as an ad stock type of effect. So trying to incorporate kind of how long or when does this impact from spend get incorporated. And this is where it's a bit of a deviation from these linear models. But it's just a regression problem. So it kind of can take many forms and become adaptive.
It's like a regression, but with a custom inverse link function. I mean, a more special inverse link function because of the ad stock and the saturation effect that you talked about. But you can visualize it a bit like a binomial regression or a Poisson regression, where you have an inverse link function somewhere after you have defined your linear regressor before putting that into the likelihood. But in this case, the inverse link function is a bit more complex than just taking the exponential, for instance, or other logit.
Correct.
And then you have the time series component also in that linear regressor. In your experience, what's a good way of handling these time series?
And in which way?
I don't know. Do you recommend, or do you personally use Gaussian processes, for instance? Do you use structural time series to take these time dependency into account? The MMM?
Yeah, my experience, it's very similar to we offer these building blocks, and you can build it up in various different ways. The way that we structure the project is there's these media transformations, and then we offer the GP. So these are all aspects that kind of can become useful depending on the problem. I know that some of the structural time series stuff is becoming a bit more developed and easily accessible in PyMC. So Jesse and
Yeah.
his work, and I would love to see kind of that integration, but I haven't ability to incorporate that. But I think that's something that, and that would be an example that would be great, because in the end, in this model, you can add another term, add some more terms, or it is kind of incremental, which is nice.
Yeah. So right now, to be clear, PyMC Marketing uses Gaussian processes.
Correct. Yeah. There's some seasonality can be inputted.
Mm-hmm.
That would be kind of as an intercept. And then there's also a way to understand media effects changing over time.
Mm-hmm.
So we have GPs incorporated in two different ways. And then if you do use some of the building blocks, you can kind of get as creative as possible.
Yeah.
So.
And are you using the HSGP decomposition, or is that the vanilla GP?
HSP is where
Yeah.
it's been integrated. That seems like it's the easiest way to integrate. The software being built out really is trying to help facilitate the model deployment. So that's the training part as well as the productionization. And so there's a bit of constraints of trying to make stuff as serializable so that we can save it off to blob and then retrieve it again, and make sure that it's ready and available for kind of those business questions that you're having, because there tends to be a separation between the training and then the use, and you want to store up these artifacts.
Yeah.
But HSPP has been our way to do it. You can imagine that you can use any other flavor.
Yeah, I mean, depends on the data size and so on, but yeah,
Correct.
like in my experience, HSGPs would be the way to go here. Are you using hierarchies on those, or like, because I imagine you want one Gaussian process per media channel, for instance, but maybe you want some hierarchical pooling across the channels. So how is that handled in PyMC Marketing?
So recently, one of the biggest constraints with doing deployment is that you have to kind of have a way to maybe serialize your configuration or have some configuration. And the way that we've been doing that does support kind of a user input, and that also has a way to define hierarchies. So it is up to the user. The way that we're shaping stuff is that we support hierarchies. You can, if you'd like, have hierarchical parameters, and that's really up to the user to define. So my goal with the project is to make it as flexible as it can be, and offer the kind of the user that wants to do marketing analytics in MMM space to be able to take advantage of it. So we have a lot of examples on our documentation page.
Yeah.
And but we're trying to build that out. So
yeah, we'll put that in the show notes for sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but that's really cool. So you can you can have these kind of hierarchical GPs already. That's already in the package, right?
Yeah, the GP is being modified a bit at the moment, but that's a long term. But all of these other components are flexible up to the user just to define their priors in a way, and those include hierarchical parameters. It really, the way I've been viewing it is it's kind of an agreement on the shape of the data. So if you want to do something with, say you have 5 covariates, you can generate 5 covariate vector in many different ways. It can be hierarchically generated, it can be independently generated, and you can also flip out the distributions.
Yeah.
So.
And how do you guys handle the seasonality that you were talking about earlier? Are you using Fourier decompositions, or are you using another GP kernel to do that?
We offer 2 implementations. This is the Fourier, which was the origination that was probably the original implementation.
Yeah.
And then there's also a GP seasonality as well.
Okay.
I would imagine if you incorporate both, you might get a kind of the overarching trend, like a kind of increase or some type of seasonality, and then the Fourier will probably detect some more yearly type of.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. Like already so many combinations of models that you can make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the, my goal is really make it, allow the user to be empowered to do and work with their assumptions and be as flexible as possible. And out of the box, we're offering basically 50 plus with just the toggle on and off. But then with the building blocks, you can get as creative as possible. And then don't forget about how priors can just be kind of defined in the way you want. So if you want to, you can really get creative.
Yeah. And so to get we'll get back a bit later to another kind of model you mentioned just a few minutes ago, but the customer, I think it was customer value, right? Something like that. But I'm also curious about the productionization of models, which is another focus of yours lately. So yeah, can you talk to us a bit more about that? What does that mean to productionize model? What are the main challenges and how are you trying to solve them?
Yeah, the productionalization side, well, we want to facilitate being able to store a model artifact. And one of the aspects with PyMC and the way it's built is that you always got to have this model graph. And we offer a way to, from this binary file, load it back in, but then also generate this or recreate this model again, so you can just pick up from where you left off.
You mean the sampling?
You reconstruct the model. So just based off of the inference data object, which is stored as in blob storage, you not only just load in this data, but you load the model as well.
Oh, that's really cool.
But the tough part with it is that you're not, so we're not pickling and depending upon the version of Python and kind of seeing some of those rough edges, but we're reconstructing the model so that you can version up the package as well as, change some of your code and increase the methods and some of the development aspects, but then also get back to where you were. So
that's really awesome. So that means like when you load, for instance, you do rvs.load netcdf, you would not only have back from that function the netcdf file with the inference data object, but also the model object that created the inference data.
Correct.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And it's definitely a tough problem because not everything that PyMC can do is a regression problem. For instance, some of the CLV stuff is shaped to form or kind of like a decomposition or just parameter estimation. Similar with these product models that we're building, it's not necessarily that you're trying to do predictions in the future. So some of the models have different requirements, which makes it a little bit tough, as well as also supporting people's flexibility and customization.
Yeah.
Making sure that their priors are exactly what they were before.
Yeah.
So it becomes a tough problem, but we want to make it so that at least the models that we have offering can be recovered, and you can really just jump back into it and do some of those cool kind of things that you want to do. Long term, I would love to see kind of all PyMC models can do that. It's
sure.
It's definitely tough because you can get really creative, and I think one of the aspects I like about PyMC is that it kind of drops some of those assumptions that you had. For instance, in the MMM space, it is a regression model, but we also have inputs from other sources that come in. So it's not just a model with one likelihood, but it's a model that can kind of have arbitrary amount of likelihoods that would be a kind of a regularization on this general or global kind of model graph. And to kind of cater to that fully is a tough problem.
Yeah, that's challenging for sure. But that would be amazing. And I know also Luciano Paz is working on trying to pick up the sampling process from where you left off. So that comes from being forced to work a lot on virtual machines. And so sometimes your connection gets lost and then you have to to sample the model all over again. And often if you're working on a VM, it's because you have a model that's challenging to sample from. So it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And so it's so much time lost. And so, yeah, what Luciano is working on is trying to find a way to be able to kind of stop the sampling process automatically. And then when you come back, the model will start sampling again from the same spot it was the last time you were connected to the VM, for instance.
Yeah.
Which would be like, that would be super powerful. And so coupled to that kind of development that you're working on, that would make a big difference. I would say not only for productionization of models, but also for development in general.
Oh, yeah.
Model.
Yeah, the general recommendation, my understanding, is just to get a new data set, just sort of sample it again entirely.
Yeah.
Which, can be time intensive. We do some big models and they're taking 3 hours plus on GPU, even when you're trying to get it as fast as possible.
Yeah.
So I definitely understand that pain. One of the aspects that I have been thinking is awesome with the integration with MLflow is that you can kind of kick off something and see this configuration. We do a lot of logging of what was your sampler, what were the configurations, what was the actual model graph, and we're working on this way to track experiments so you can kind of come back and see some context that you started with.
Okay. So what's MLflow here? I don't know that. So, what is it and why is it useful in this case?
MLflow is like a machine learning kind of deployment experiment tracking framework. It has a kind of a plug-in system to many machine learning packages to log these artifacts and various aspects of your configuration, and it's complete kind of tweakable. For instance, the things that you might be interested in to log when you're doing some experimentation is, your sampler, how long is it taking, what was like the some type of metric that you're curious about, maybe some of the plots, so you can do some of that interrogation. And this is just a way to store this off. It's stored in some database, and usually it's hosted. It'll be served, and then you can kind of always come back to it. I kind of been describing it as a way to just kind of do some of that bookkeeping.
Yeah.
And to kind of point to all the files that you kind of had of interest, as well as anything that might be relevant. I think it's a good tool if you use it correctly. But you can definitely, in my mind, leverage it for much bookkeeping, and so you can come back to stuff and get back to the context that you.
Yeah, this is super. Yeah, that sounds super helpful.
Yeah,
for sure. Damn.
Yeah, I don't have the best memory, but after 3 hours of the sampler, you're trying to do some other.
Yeah.
You trigger a few models.
Yeah.
You want to have the way to kind of get back into that workflow. So it's a tool that I think is trying to make people's life a little easier.
Yeah,
it integrates in a lot of machine learning. Machine learning.
And is that a feature that's already available in PyMC Marketing, or are you still working on developing that? Yeah,
there's the MLflow has an auto logging, and we have a auto logging that's supported for all PyMC models, which is cool. That tracks off the model graph, as well as the number of parameters, the number of deterministics, and it does it for free, which is great. And then for the MMM, we have another set of things that we track down, like the add stock function, the saturation functions. And then Louis McGowan, one of the contributors, he's been working on logging off some of these metrics that are very crucial to MMM. So really just makes it, you kick off the model the way you would, and for free you get a lot of great stuff. But then under the hood, or kind of building this repertoire, but it's basically for free. We already have dozens and dozens of things that might be of interest. Parameter estimates.
Yeah.
But it is something that if it's not of interest, then you can change it to your liking. And it's we're still kind of collecting feedback on that level, but there's a lot of stuff that's currently already implemented.
Damn, yeah, that's really cool. Well done, and well done on that work. That must have been quite challenging. I'd like to go back to a kind of model. You talked about a bit earlier, which was something about customers. Can you remind me what the name was, and also like define these kind of models for the audience?
Is it the customer lifetime value?
That's possible.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, can you define these models, when they are useful, what their strengths are, their weaknesses?
Yeah, I'm not per se the expert, but I kind of lump into that. The W words on your customers, trying to understand just the customer profile, and depending on the model kind of architecture, you can derive various different insights, many of which kind of have a global population. So you not only by looking at some data set, you're learning about the populations in general. So there's I think there's various different artifacts depending on which one, but it goes into kind of different paradigms of how products are set up.
Okay.
For instance, subscription models. Anytime there's a subscription, there's a subset of research there. If it's contractual, there's various different.
Yeah, that sounds a bit like a kind of like a survival model in a way, where you're trying to infer the probability of like a customer churning out, basically.
Correct. Yeah, one of the big use cases, my understanding, is for churn prediction. It has that part of the assumptions. So depending on the assumptions, and you get different insights from them.
Yeah.
And I know some of them have churn capabilities. So you might have an assumption of you never coming back.
Yeah.
I think that's why it gets the term the buy till you die, and that's the dying process. And then if you don't die, then you have a time until a next purchase or a next transaction. And that just is derived. So you can kind of get stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not an expert at that field. It's Cole Allen has been developing a lot of that work. So you'll have him on.
Yeah, I mean, and also I'm guessing there are some tutorials on the PyMC Marketing website. Maybe we can link to in the show notes of the episode.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of documentation there, and I think in this CLV model, that's how we've been lumping it.
Yeah.
There's a notebook for every type of model. There's many models, all different assumptions, and the documentation has the context and some of this setup and when you use it and what type of insights can you grab from it.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, let's definitely link to that in the show notes. I'm also curious, what, like, is there something I always like to learn when I talk to people like you, whether on the show or in the hallways, is there like a mistake you made at some point in your development of whether models or a feature that was really enlightening to you, and that made you learn something very important
In terms of development?
Yeah, model development, or
I mean, constantly.
yeah.
It's a living piece of software,
Yeah.
and we're learning all the time. And I think we come out with some stuff that we think is structured kind of in a way that's usable and adjustable and flexible.
Yeah.
But we're constantly learning, and I always appreciate the feedback from the larger community, and it's great to have opportunities to hear from people. And I try to kind of give praise to as much people that do have, contributions, and encourage it. But because that's totally where the project's goals come from.
So then what's the latest surprise you got, or the most surprising learning experience you got from that?
So, I mean, I think one of the ones that comes to my mind is in the kind of deployment ready production code. It's a tough problem because you have to account for the flexibility that PyMC models can provide. So to structure that problem where you can support many different types of models, but then also get back to your workflow, reconstruct your model is kind of, it's very tough.
Yeah.
So, you know, the code base got a lot of love. We're constantly working on it, and we're trying to just, you know, hit all the use cases and, be constructive on where it's going. And so I know, I mean, we just want to be as flexible as possible so we can, you know, you don't have to be as invasive in the code base, in order to support someone's.
Yeah, I see what you're doing. Yeah, definitely.
And
that's the same thing on the PyMC side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely a little bit of narrower context, which I really enjoy. It's, you know, you can always add a new distribution, PyMC, and it's kind of these building blocks.
Yeah.
And now, like, there's a bit of a constraint on top where they're all kind of the same. And then, so it's been a fun thing to work on.
Yeah, I guess. Something I really like also is that in the Discord of PyMC Labs, you always are one of the guys who drop, you know, you test a lot of new technologies. So I love that because you often share that in the Discord. Something I saw you guys were testing recently was something like a new notebook stuff, or how is it called, Merino or something like that?
Merino?
Yeah, something like that. So can you tell us what this is about? I'm curious. Is that something that replaces Jupyter notebooks?
I don't know exactly the full aspect of it. Some know more, but I've been playing around with it. It's been fun. It's a lot, very interactive. I've always been a fan of like the Altair project.
Okay.
Which has visualizations, and you can really kind of get a visualization and interactivity to your visualizations.
Yeah.
And this has a similar sense, but in a notebook context where some of those sharp edges of version control as well as cell dependency, I think is trying to be solved here. But it's been very, I think it's been getting adopted by a handful of people, and I'm keeping my eye out. I'd love to see that interactivity intersect with, or some of this capability intersect with PyMC stuff. And maybe see how it can.
Yeah, for sure. So it's like it builds on top of Jupyter notebooks to make them like easier to do version control?
I think it's a separate thing.
Okay.
Yeah. That's my side of it.
Okay, that's interesting. So we should put the link in the show notes also. I'm like, I'm definitely going to try that because Jupyter notebooks are hard for version control, cell dependency, etc. So that sounds like something at least I'd like to try if that's really solving these kind of issues.
Yeah, I was playing around with it yesterday where you can have some of the kind of configuration at the top, and then you change it, and then it automatically derives and kind of ships off and executes kind of the dependent cells. I don't know if that's the terminology.
Yeah.
There seems to be some deviation there, but you can, get this sense of interactivity and not have to deal with all of the execution and stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
So it seems exciting. It seems like a cool project, and I hope it seems like it's getting a lot of love. So
yeah, for sure. I'll give it a try, and we'll put that in the show notes for sure. So to play that, we'll open to the Q&As in a minute. But to play us out, a question I like to ask the guests from time to time is there something you're like, what are you learning these days? Like, because I know you're always learning new stuff, as you were saying. So I'm always curious when I meet people like you to know what you're working on these days, what you're learning, what's your maybe also a challenging thing you're working on right now, where like banging your head against the wall,
I've been toying around a lot with the GitHub Actions. I've been having a lot of fun with those. For me, I want to make the developer experience kind of as easy as possible. I'm a developer. I know other people are developers. And I joke one of the other developers, Juan, that was his coffee break, and I'm trying to get rid of his coffee break. Slow down, speed up everything.
Yeah.
So I've been having a lot of fun working with those and learn those, but I'm still developing my workflow that I enjoy for that, and trying to make the capabilities pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty cool. So that automates a lot of the process on GitHub Actions.
Yeah. So with PyMC Marketing, we have that for automated testing. We have documentation checks. We have the issue labeling and issue management, release consequences like publishing to packaging and so forth. So it handles a lot of things, and I've just been toying around that as a medium to, make some of the problems I do a little bit easier. I'm always on GitHub and trying to respond to stuff and make sure I get to everyone's questions and help out where I can or point them to the right direction. So,
okay, so it's like automating a lot of work.
Correct. Yeah. Automation.
Oh, yeah.
GitHub automation.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I have to ask you the last two questions. I ask every guest at the end of the show. But before, do we have any questions from the audience yet, or are you guys good?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll repeat the question for the people who are not in the room. What's your name? Jeff. So Jeff was asking, so more of an DevOps person, right? To operations research. Okay. So yeah, Jeff questions is basically, like what you're doing is a lot of time series and causal inference, and how generally can this be applied to the kind of work that you're doing, Jeff?
I guess that's a little bit tough. I mean, I would say, in terms from time series and Bayesian kind of statistics, you can get level of outliers and events, and maybe that would be something that is kind of catered. I'd have to kind of learn a little bit more. Yeah.
Okay. So question was, is setting a prior in the context of a causal inference model different from setting a prior in a model where you're less interested in causal effects?
I'm going to go back and add the things I'm learning is causal inference. I'm not that expert there. I'm not exactly sure, but I can imagine that you're still trying to just cater to your assumptions, in general, all the information that you have, and leverage the prior predictive checks and posterior predictive checking. And I like to interrogate internals of models, and even if it's artifacts that don't have anything to do with it, derivations. And I would imagine that it's similar to that Bayesian workflow.
My 2 cents also would be that, like, I don't think you would do that necessarily differently. Not necessarily because deriving the priors for causal inference is not special, but because the way we usually do that in the Bayesian workflow is because you really do that from a generative perspective most of the time. So you're already thinking kind of in a causal inference framework most of the time. So yeah, I would say I don't think that's much different, but maybe we'll get some angry emails after the episode. So I'll make sure to forward them to you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Will? Or?
No.
Any other question? Yeah. So you said blank choice modeling? Choice modeling. Okay. So I'm not familiar with that kind of model. So that's actually a great question. Thank you. What's your name? Sunlight. So question was, choice modeling. Is that possible to do in PyMC Marketing, if I understood correctly? Did you guys already think about that?
So the customer choice module that we're working on is also high level time series. So it's time series, but it'd be for some type of product. And then the customer choice label that we're using at the moment comes from the model internals trying to delineate where does introduction of a new product, where does it come from the existing current product. So in a way, like, where is this higher level choice rather than a customer level?
Are these models like multinomial choice models?
We offer the flexibility to have different likelihoods
Mm-hmm.
for the time series, because the likelihood kind of comes from that time series side of things. But then in terms of the breakdown of where does the contribute, where are these metrics going into this for this new product that's has a Dershly type of breakdown.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
So
That makes sense to me. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So, but we try to offer that flexibility. So
Mhm.
if it is, count like data, then it can be used there. Or if it's
Yeah.
strictly positive, you can change your likelihood, etc.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
But
Satisfied or follow up? No, that's fine. Great. Any other questions before we close up? So, Will, awesome. Thank you for taking the time. That was great to have you here. Of course, last two questions I ask every guest at the end of the show.
yeah,
So first one, if you had unlimited time and resources, which problem would you try to solve?
that is tough. One of the realizations with doing the model deployment stuff that's been on my mind is the benefit of having kind of shape information or dimension information from the PyMC model external of these model context.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a wrapper that we implement that allows that to be the case.
Mm-hmm.
But we're still using PyMC kind of the functionality at the moment. I would love to see that general use of, abstract shapes and label coordinates that PyMC benefits from, kind of more larger use. I think that more a little bit lower down with PyTensor could benefit from that, but I'm not too sure. There might be a lot of consequences, but
Yeah.
that would be a resource intensive
Yeah.
implementation. So I would love to see where that could go in the future.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see that.
Yeah. Sounds good. And second question, if you could have dinner with any great scientific mind, dead, alive, or fictional, who would it be?
The last few years I've been watching some math history.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an interesting side of mathematics where you get a sense of where, how people thought throughout time. And one of the stories that I know is with the great scientist that had the Eureka moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the Greek minds.
Yeah.
Blanking on his name, but I think it has a interesting aspect to the story where I think it's math in my mind is the balance of the invention kind of discovery side, and in this story to me this the use of how the idea kind of came to him is interesting, and I would love to see kind of the workflow that how kind of these historical figures had. So
like the creativity in the mathematical discovery process, basically.
Yeah.
That's something that's very interesting to you.
Yeah, but
Great. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Will, for taking the time and being on this show. And thank you, everybody, for coming. That was great to have you here live. And, see you in the next episode.
thank you.
This has been another episode of Learning Bayesian Statistics. Be sure to rate, review, and follow the show on your favorite podcatcher, and visit learnbayesstats.com for more resources about today's topics, as well as access to more episodes to help you reach true Bayesian state of mind. That's learnbayesstats.com. Our theme music is Good Bayesian by Baba Brinkman, feat. MC Loss and Megaran. Check out his awesome work at bababrinkman.com. I'm your host, Alex Andorra. You can follow me on Twitter at Alex_Andorra, like the country. You can support the show and unlock exclusive benefits by visiting patreon.com/learnbayesstats. Thank you so much for listening and for your support. You're truly a
good Bayesian. Change your predictions after taking information in. And if you're thinking I'll be less than amazing, let's adjust those expectations. Let me show you how to be a good Bayesian. Change copy calculations after taking fresh data in. Those predictions that your brain is making, let's get them on a solid foundation.